Right. Problems with the farm. Last lecture we talked about the expansion into the western part of the United States, driven by the railroads and of course the Homestead Act. What this did was it brought a lot of farmers and cattlemen into that area in order to make money and have a nice life. Now, the problems on the farm settles down to one issue: economics. Because economics rules and politicians drool. Now, remember, two groups of people that were out there in the West, farmers and cattlemen. Both farmers and cattlemen had to use the railroads in order to transport whatever they grew or whatever they raised to get their cattle and farm produce to the eastern cities. Steak and potatoes, heck yeah. Now, the railroads didn't do that for free, right? And they charged money, 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 money. Therefore, the farmers and the cattlemen, they got poor, because the more money they charged, the smaller the profit got on whatever the cattlemen or the farmers grew. Now that's one issue. The second issue was this: economics. Here is an economic principle. This is how supply and demand affect price. Now you got to learn about econ in high school, so you might as well learn a little bit about it now, so when you get to high school you won't look like a complete idiot. Okay, here's an economic principle. An increase in supply without an increase in demand means lower prices. Supply is everything that is made and offered for sale, whether it's a chair or a desk or an orange or a tire or whatever it is. Whatever is made and offered for sale is called supply. Demand is what people want to buy. It's what I want to buy. It's what you want to buy. It's what we demand to spend our money on. And of course, price is what we have to spend to buy what we want. An increase in supply means a decrease, without an increase in demand, means a lower price. Now, this is how it affected the farmers. They grew more food and more meat, an increase in supply. And yet the demand kind of stayed the same. People can only eat so much food, and that led to a drop in prices. So these two things, greedy railroads plus good old-fashioned economics, the farmers and the cattlemen got poor. Economic principles continue. Supply goes up, demand goes down, or stays the same, price goes down. Now this is really easy to understand. Let's just say that Chevrolet makes the new electric Volt car and they're going to want to sell them for $40,000 a piece. No one wants to buy one at $40,000 a piece. And Chevy has made a lot of them and they can't sell them. So what do they got to do? They've got to lower the price. They lower the price to maybe $35,000 each and they start selling some. They still have a lot left over. So they lower the price again to $30,000 and then more people buy. The supply of Volts was very high. The demand for Volts was very low. So price goes down as they put it on sale in order to sell it, right? It makes sense. That's how people buy shoes and everything else. Now, this is kind of interesting. The flip side of it, what happens when supply goes down and demand goes up? You know what happens to price? Price goes up. And this makes perfect sense. Because if you really want to buy it and you can't find it because there's not that many being made, the people are going to pay more money to get one if they can find it. Price goes up. Now, how did this affect the farmers? See, the farmers grew and the cattlemen raised more supply than demand because people can only eat so much food. Therefore, lower price and poverty. Of course, plus the greedy railroad guys and the packing houses, of course. So what are you going to do about it? The farmers and the cattlemen realized they need to organize. And one reason they needed to organize was against the railroads, because the railroads, they had a lot of political power because they had tons of money. Remember? Last time I told you that railroads make a lot of money, and they got a lot of money, so they spread it around. In other words, they get some laws passed for their benefit. And And guess who gets screwed? The farmers do, because they don't have any political power, but now they decide to organize to get some political power. And they organized into two groups, the Farmers Alliance and what was called the Grange Movement. This creates political power in the western state legislatures. You know, states like Montana and South Dakota and Utah and places like that. The Grange had a lot of political power in the state legislature. But what about the federal government? They needed something else. And they got it in 1896. A Democratic Party ran a politician for the presidency, and the politician's name was William Jennings Bryan. William Jennings Bryan was a friend of the farmers and a friend to the guys, the little guy, who was getting screwed over by big business. And this is what Bryan thought would work. Bryan had a solution, something called free silver. Now, it's not like they were going to give silver away for free. They were going to free up silver so that it could be used. Now, step one, identify the problem. There's not enough money, which is why the farmers don't got none. That's what they thought. Why is there not enough money? Well, the number of dollars had to be equal to the pounds of gold that the government had. There was only so much gold in the U.S. Treasury, therefore, there was only so many dollars out in the economy. They only printed the same amount of dollars on some kind of ratio that they had in gold, usually 32 to 1. 32 U.S. dollars equals 1 ounce of gold. That's what the gold standard was all about. So here's what Bryan's solution is. Because you only got so much gold, here's the solution. Why not add silver to the gold supply? Yeah, add silver to the gold supply, because that way, if they do that, they could issue more paper money. Because the paper money is no longer based only on gold, it's going to be based on gold and silver that the U.S. Treasury has. And it makes sense, if there's more dollars in the economy, then the farmers are going to get more. It actually kind of makes sense, and probably a lot more sense than what those idiots are doing at the Federal Reserve right now. But that's another story. Now, does it really make sense? Well, here's the problem. Does this work? No, it does not work. And it doesn't work because of another economic principle, something called inflation. Now, inflation is when something gets bigger. Just think of a balloon. You blow the balloon up. It inflates, right? You're putting more air into the balloon, so the balloon gets inflated. Inflation happens in an economy also. And inflation is an increase in the number of dollars that are circulating in an economy. And when an increase in the number of dollars happens, the purchasing power goes down. The purchasing power of a single dollar goes down. And it kind of sounds crazy to think about this, because when the purchasing power goes down, it actually takes more dollar numbers to buy the same thing. Like instead of buying a gallon of milk for $1, the way it was in 1970, it now takes $3 to get the same gallon of milk. Have cows gotten that much more expensive? No. It's because of inflation. And instead of taking 1, it now takes 3. That's inflation. Think of it this way. You've played Monopoly, right? Monopoly is a fun game. Think about Monopoly. The bank, the bank has got 1s, 5s, 10s, 50, it's got about $50,000 more or less in Monopoly money cash. And at the beginning of the game, each player gets about $1,500, more or less, And of course, properties cost different things. Baltic Avenue is like $26, and Marvin Gardens is $280, Boardwalk is $500. Properties cost money. Now, what about this? Think about this. What if more money was added to the bank? You take another Monopoly game and you put both sets of monies together, right? All of a sudden, the bank now has $100,000, and then players now get $3,000 instead of $1,500. They now get $3,000. What do you think is going to happen to the price of property? Well, the price of property is going to go up. Because people now have more money to spend. And in Monopoly, you can bid the price up. Because you've got more money, you can spend more money, and when you spend more money, then you end up paying more money for the same thing. So in this side, let's say Boardwalk is $500, but now everyone has twice as much money. What do you think Boardwalk's going to cost now? $1,000? Of course it does. See? Now let's bring this back to the farmers. Free silver, Brian's idea, would have inflated the money supply. If the money supply is inflated, economic principle, then prices rise. Okay, prices rise. That's not a bad idea because now, because the prices are going up, the farmers actually get more dollars, don't they? Sure. What they used to sell a pound of corn for 50 cents, now they can sell a pound of corn for $1. They've doubled their money, right? Farmers get more dollars. But everything else gets more expensive for everybody else. Because if the farmers are now getting $1 for a bushel of corn, they used to get 50 cents, how much is a can of corn going to cost at the grocery store? Huh? How much are corn muffins going to cost at the grocery store? Twice as much. Everything gets more expensive for everyone. Because of that, in the 1896 election, Bryant loses. And then he runs again and loses again. And he runs a third time and loses a third time. And guess who gets screwed? The farmer.